Once upon a time, many, many moons ago, I was 9 years old. I was living in Windsor, where I grew up. It was a Monday. It was 3 a.m. in the middle of the night. And of course, like any 9-year-old boy at that time of the night, I was fast asleep in bed. And my father came to my room. He gently coaxed me out of bed by whispering in my ear, "Son, there's something on the television that I want you to watch because I think it's something you remember for the rest of your life." And he took me downstairs. And I sat cross-legged, bleary-eyed on our living room carpet with my 3 elder sisters. And we watched Neil Armstrong and Buzz Aldrin land upon the surface of the moon. Before I continue, good morning, everyone. My name is Richard Phillips, and I'm delighted to be here with you this morning and to be given this chance to share my story. Thank you so much, Wince. Thank you, Neil. Brave is a great force for good. So I know what you're thinking. Who is this man, and why is he here? So 30 seconds on me and 30 seconds on why I'm here. If someone said to me, "Richard, you've got to wear a badge. And on that badge, you can only put one word. And that word has to sum up your life." Honestly, that word would be lucky. But I'd have to scrawl underneath it and incredibly grateful. I've been incredibly lucky. People say that you make your own luck in life. Okay, on the things that you can proactively influence, I agree. But then there's the roll of the dice, isn't there? Yeah? Those things you can't influence. Where you were born, your parents, if you're lucky enough, the education you have. Well, I've been incredibly lucky. Loving parents, 3 elder sisters. Didn't want for much when I was young. And then when I was 17, I got really, really lucky. I met and fell in love with my gorgeous wife, Caroline. And we have 4 amazing grown-up children. All children are amazing. Sarah's 35, Charles is 33, changes every year, doesn't it? Emily's 28, and James is a baby. He's 22. He's still at home. I told him he can't leave, and if he tries to, I'm going to lock him in his room. So for work, I work for a great company, 3 Cherries. Crazy name. I'm a salesman there. I've been there 15 years. Company's 25 years old, as I mentioned earlier. It's not really work. I go out and I see our clients. I sell things to them. I do a bit of admin, emails and things like that. But mainly, I'm telling people my stories. I'm drinking their tea and coffee, eating their biscuits. I'm very, very lucky. So why am I here? Well, I give this talk and similar talks to all sorts of groups. I go to schools, I go to scout groups, anyone will listen to me, frankly, and groups like this. And I think I've got 2 agendas. With younger people, I'm looking for my astronaut. My dream is that in 20 years' time, they're going to remember my website, Apollo Talks. They're going to see my number. And Sally or Sid or whoever, they're going to be in the green room just before they put the helmet on. They're going to say, "Pass me the phone. I got to phone Richard." And my wife picks up the phone. "Richard, there's someone on the phone for you, Sally, and there's a lot of noise in the background." "Hello?" "Richard, Sally, you came to Gordano School when I was 15. I'm just about to get on the rocket. I'm going to Mars. I'm going to walk on Mars." So that's one thing I want to do. Guys and girls like you, perhaps there's someone in the room who's thinking of doing something with their business and their personal life. Maybe you're struggling, maybe you're thinking, I don't think I can do it. Well, hopefully, my story will get you over the other side. Yeah, you know what? I'm going to do it. So, where was I? I was nine years old. Okay, so they landed on the moon, Neil and Buzz, 21st of July, 1969. And there were 6 successful missions to land men on the moon. So that's 2 guys on each. That's 12 men that land on the moon. And those missions took place between July 69 and December 72. So as a 9, 10, 11-year-old, for my birthdays, for Christmas, I had Lego rockets, all sorts of models of rockets and what have you. When I got to 12, 13, I got a bike. They all went in the bin, sadly. And I forgot about Apollo. Come with me on this journey. Wind the clock forward, please, to 2007. I was sitting in my car, in my driveway, my home. I had my elder daughter, Sarah, there. She was about 16. For some reason, Sarah said, Dad, if I could arrange for you to meet anyone on the planet who's alive today, 7 billion people, who would it be? You can have lunch, dinner, you can spend some time with them. So I thought for a moment, and I remember saying to her very clearly, Sarah, I'd really like to meet a man who's walked upon the surface of the moon, but I probably never will. Conversation finished. The reason why I said that at that time is because about a year before, it was a Sunday, I'd been somewhere with my wife, Caroline. We'd been to a friend's house, and so we were driving away. I said to Caroline, he has got so many amazing hobbies. And I suddenly realized, midlife crisis, I didn't have a hobby. I thought, how sad. I had a busy life, I had 4 young children, running a business, but I didn't have a hobby. So those of you who know me, I'm either switched on or switched off. I'm all or nothing. I thought, right, I'm going to get myself a hobby. Borders Bookshop, Queen's Road, Saturday. The first book that I see that resonates with me, that's going to be my hobby. And metaphorically, this book flew off the shelf. I bought it. A Man on the Moon by Andy Chaikin. Basically what it does, it previews all of the Apollo missions. It's a fantastic book. So I read that book, and then I bought another book. I wasn't really in a book reading mode at that time, but over the course of a year, I probably read about 15 books, and I became absolutely besotted, amazed by the missions to land men upon the surface of the moon. Gosh, it is just quite incredible. I bought lots of DVDs and what have you. And that's why I said what I said to Sarah. So imagine that was on a Wednesday, I think. Then I think on the Friday night, sitting in the study on the computer as you do late at night, doing nothing really. Felt really sort of niggled. And I thought, why do you feel this way? And I reflected on what I said to Sarah. And I thought, hold on a second, you're a positive guy, you're a sales guy, you get things done, yeah? So I reasoned in 2007, 2008, out of the 12 men that walked upon the surface of the moon, 9 were still left alive. Sadly, there's only 4 left alive now, all about 95. So I reasoned, okay, there's 9 human beings that are walking on this earth. Well, they must get out and about, right? They must go shopping or something. So there and then, I said to myself, I am going to meet a man who's walked upon the surface of the moon. So before I talk about them, just want to give you a few facts on Apollo. Okay, and I'll uncover my props. This is an old decorating sheet. My wife says every time I take it out, why are you taking that decorating sheet out? This is Buzz. Buzz is, I've got to be careful, Buzz is 95 years old. This is also, I've got to be very, very, very careful here. This is a model of a Saturn V. Okay, so a few quick facts for you. Has anybody been to Kennedy or Houston and seen a Saturn V? Okay, how big is it, guys? It's big, isn't it? Okay, so Let's just quantify it. It's 363 feet tall. It's quite high, right? So what does that mean in terms, how can you, 30-story office block. Well, next time you go over the Cumberland Basin, I love it when I tell kids this, you're in the car, you look left, you see the bridge. Imagine if the rocket, well, the bridge is 331 feet tall. The Saturn V rocket is actually about 30 feet taller than that. It is absolutely ginormous, yeah? 363 feet tall. There's lots of stories about the rocket. Essentially, imagine this as a Royal Navy frigate. Yeah, it's about the same size and the same weight. And imagine strapping bombs to it, and imagine it taking off. It's got to miss that tower. Yeah. When I go to schools, I tell the story, the mechanics of Apollo, and I explain how it works very rudimentarily. I haven't got time to do that today, but it's quite remarkable. And when you consider there were 6 successful missions, no one died on Apollo except the fire on Apollo 1, which was on the launch pad, but they didn't lose anyone in space. And as we all know, Apollo 13, with Tom Hanks in, who played Jim Lovell, they managed to get them back. And it's quite incredible. The amazing thing about Apollo is that it should have happened now in the 2020s. But what the Americans basically did, they took something kicking and screaming back to the 1960s, and they pulled it off. And you all know that saying that a mobile phone now has got more technology in it, right, Kev, than they had in a Saturn V. It's incredible. Okay, my meeting. So between 2008 and 2010, I was lucky enough to meet six men who walked on the surface of the moon. All I did, I just focused my passion. Okay, when I'm a salesman, I want to sell to Adam. I will focus and I will do everything I can. And that's what I did. So here are some of the people I met. This is Buzz Aldrin, who's the second man to walk on the moon. That's my son, Charles. This is me asking Buzz a question. When you meet people like this, you've got to ask them a sensible question. So if you say to Buzz Aldrin, what was it like to walk on the moon? He's not going to engage with you. But if you actually ask him, tell me, Dr. Aldrin, I'm interested, which pen did you use when you had to get back off the moon's surface? So essentially, they landed on the moon, went for a walk, came back in. When they came back in, they walked up the stairs, they had big backpacks in. When they walked in, one of them broke off the ascent engine switch. And the ascent engine was under here, and that was the engine that was going to get them off the moon. So imagine breaking off that switch. Houston, I think we got a problem. Yeah, they kept it very quiet at the time. So what they had to do, Houston thought about it, and they said, okay, use a pen to make the circuit, okay? And when I met Buzz back in 2008, I think it was, there was a lot of talk on the internet. Did they use a felt tip pen or did they use a Fisher pen? Okay, and I wanted to find out which one he used. So there I am, asking him. And his reply was, I didn't use either of those, Richard. I used an aluminum-bodied felt tip pen, one of my own, which I took to the moon because it flowed real good. Because they couldn't use pencils, propelling pencils, because if the lead broke off, it would float and get in their eyes, yeah? So Fisher made a pen that can work, doesn't need gravity to work, but he didn't use that, he used that one. Anyway, I digress. Here he is answering. This is my son, James, when he's 22 now. He was about 7 or 8 there, and he's asking, terrible photo, Buzz, that same question. It was another meeting. So, this is Jim Lovell. Very sadly, he died a week or so ago. Don't know whether you saw that in the news. So Jim Lovell was an iconic human being. He was on Apollo 8, which was the first mission to go to the moon, went around the moon, came back with 2 other guys. He was also the commander on Apollo 13, and Tom Hanks played him in the film. It's a great film if you want to watch that film. This is Al Bean. Who remembers the 4th man to walk on the moon? Imagine being the 4th man or the 5th man. No one remembers them. But Al Bean, it's an amazing story. And again, I spent some time with him at a dinner. On Apollo 12, as it took off, 36 seconds into the launch, it was hit by lightning. and they lost all the telemetry. So imagine being in your car, imagine driving at 100 miles down the motorway in the fog, and suddenly you lose all your instrumentation. You don't know how fast you're going, the fuel, you don't know where you're going, no sat-nav. That was the equivalent of that. Well, this guy was a hero because as they were blasting up, the alarms were going off, they got the helmets on, it's shaking. Yeah, it's incredible. Mission Control basically radioed up. Try SCE to AUX, which is a switch. It's an obscure switch. Al Bean knew it well. He went click, and all the data came back. And they didn't have to abort. If they'd had to abort, then what would have happened? Explosive charges would have gone off, and this would have separated. Anyway, another story. This is my son, James, my 4 sons. I've got 2 sons. I used to train them to ask questions. This is James talking to Al Bean. How fast did they drive on the moon? This is Dave Scott. Dave Scott was the 7th man to walk on the moon. There were Apollo 11, Apollo 12, Apollo 13 didn't make it, 14, 15, 16, 17. So 6 missions. First 3, they walked. The last 3, they had cars, lunar rovers. This is Dave Scott, first human being to drive on the surface of the moon, Apollo 15. So how do you find out how fast they drive on the moon? Well, obviously, you get your son to ask. Mr. Scott, sir, how fast did you drive upon the surface of the moon? On the way to London. James, you got the question? James, you got the question? 7 miles an hour, James. Okay. I met Dave on another occasion, just so obscure. Sat down, having dinner. I thought I was going to spend the evening asking him about being on the moon. I, at that time, was an unpaid ambassador for Bloodhound, the supersonic car that was being built in Bristol. Early on in the evening, I mentioned this to Dave. He goes, Richard, tell me about yourself. And he said, Bloodhound, that's powered by a rocket and a jet engine. I said, yeah. I said, don't worry, Dave. I've got a magazine out in the car. I'll give it to you after. He said, no, go and get it now. Really? Yeah. Okay, so I went to get it. Spent an hour and a half sitting next to him, him asking me all about Bloodhound. Dr. Edgar Mitchell, the 6th man to walk on the surface of the moon, Apollo 14. I spent the weekend with him. Back in 2010, spent 3 days with him, stayed in the hotel with him, had breakfast with him. Essentially, just a bit of backstory. So I found out that Dr. Edgar Mitchell was coming to the UK, and he was going to give a series of talks, about 8 talks. I found out who was organising it, a guy called Ken Willoughby. I phoned Ken, got talking to him. I bought a ticket for one of the talks he was going to give. And then I carried on calling Ken, I'm a salesman. And about the 5th conversation, Ken, when Dr. Mitchell comes over in a month's time, he's going to give these talks. Who's his warm-up speaker? What do you mean, Richard? From Yorkshire. Well, who's going to be the warm-up speaker? I mean, Ricky Gervais, it doesn't matter, pop group, they've all got warm-ups. I mean, are you seriously going to get the mic and say, and now, ladies and gentlemen, Dr. Edgar Mitchell, the 6th man to walk on the moon? No, you can't do that. You've got to warm them up. Oh, I see what you mean, Richard. Oh, yeah. Oh, I wonder what I can do. Well, I'll tell you what. I'm an ambassador for Bloodhound supersonic car. I know Andy Green and Richard know it quite well. I can get a big model of Bloodhound. I can get some leaflets and goodness as well. I can spend maybe 15, 20 minutes with YouTube film, and then I can introduce Dr. Edgar Mitchell, okay? Because the two go together. Oh, good idea. So I spent the weekend with Dr. Edgar Mitchell. I gave him a lift in my hire car. Has anybody here had a moonwalker in their car? Show of hands? Oh, being sarcastic, obviously. So it's a very proud moment for me. And bizarre, because on the way between a venue and the hotel, I had to stop for petrol, went into the petrol station, and I was in the petrol station. There's a young man behind the counter, and I looked out, and there's Dr. Edgar Mitchell sitting in the passenger car of my hire car. And I thought, can I say to this guy, that guy has walked on the moon? I thought, oh, can't. He's not going to believe me, is he? Anyway. So, as you can see, I met a few moonwalkers. 6 out of 12. Pretty good. But there was a problem. I hadn't met Neil. I hadn't met the first man to walk upon the surface of the moon. 2010 March, it was a Wednesday, just going to bed, midnight, just about to walk upstairs, my Nokia brick phone went beep, 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 beep. It's a text message from a guy I knew called Andy. When you join a club like this, when you become a train spotter, you wear a particular type of jacket, right? Well, I had the Apollo jacket. And I've been traveling around the country for the last 2 years, autograph shows, dinners, all sorts of things. And you meet people that are on the same journey. And Andy was on the same journey. And every time I met Andy or spoke with him, it was, I wonder where Neil is. I wonder what he's doing. I wonder how we're going to meet him. So the text message was, guess who I'm seeing tomorrow night? So I jokingly text back, Neil Armstrong. He came back, how did you guess? I was, what? You know when you know someone not so well that you can't call them at midnight, right? So I ran into the study, computer on. Please be on a line, Andy. Sent him an email. What do you mean you're meeting Neil Armstrong? He came back up. He's going to be at an RAF airbase in the UK tomorrow evening. He's giving a motivational, I'll get it out, a motivational talk. A friend of mine, this is Andy talking, a friend of mine works on the airbase. He's going to sign me in, and I'm hopefully going to get in the room where Neil is. Okay, can you sign me in? No, you can only take one person in. So I went to bed that night, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, knowing that my hero was going to be on the same piece of land as me the next day. There would be no significant body of water between me and Neil Armstrong. That was a very powerful thought, very powerful. I slept like a baby. I bounced out of bed about an hour before my alarm clock went off. I never bounced out of bed. I found myself packing an overnight bag. I went to the understairs cupboard. I got passport, driver's license, standing at the front door. My wife, Caroline, said, Richard, why have you got an overnight bag? I looked at Caroline and I said, Caroline, I found out last night that Neil's going to be in the country. I may not be home tonight. She looked at me. Can't blame her, because for 2 years, the conversation around the dinner table was, I wonder where Neil is. I wonder how I can meet him. Yeah. And my kids and Caroline. Anyway. So I went to work. I had a great day at work. I remember opening my diary. I remember I think I wrote 8 o'clock, meeting Neil Armstrong, closed my diary. I give you my word. Everything I tell you is true. I had a great day. When you're going to do something maybe a bit crazy, only tell the people who support you 100%. I told 2 people. I phoned my elder daughter, Sarah, and I said, look, Neil's in the country. I don't know where he is. He's at an air base. I'm thinking of driving there tonight. And she said, Dad, it's your passion. Do it. Okay, Sarah. I told Ian, who was my managing director at that time, a very dear friend of mine. He said, Richard, yeah, you've got to do it. I'd taken Ian to see Charlie Duke, who was Apollo 16, about 6 months before. He knew how passionate I was. He said, yeah. You know, you kind of like search for approval, don't you, from people? Yeah, you want support. You want your friends to say, yeah, do it. And those are the 2 people I knew that would absolutely endorse it. So I went to a meeting in Bristol, a sales meeting. I drove away about 4:45, and I was driving up the M32. And I had a decision to make. I was either going to turn left and go home to Backwell, 15-minute drive, or I was going to turn right. I give you my word, the only thing I'd done that day is I'd gone online and I'd got the postcode of RAF Mildenhall. Does anybody know where RAF Mildenhall is? Okay, it's in Suffolk. Okay, right. I didn't know where it was. I give you my word, it could have been in Bath. Okay, I didn't Google map it or anything. I just got the postcode. So I was in my car. Anybody remember Tom Tom Go? I'm driving up the M32, and I'll put it in. I'm getting towards the end of the M32, and it comes back 197 miles, 3 hours, 5 minutes. I've got to make a decision in 30 seconds. I'm either going to turn left or turn right. I turned right. Got to the first service station, pulled in. I text Andy, I'm on my way. He didn't know I was going to go. He texts back, you're mad, you're crazy. I've got to the airbase early. The security is unbelievable. Go home. go home. I kept going. I got to Maidenhead. Maidenhead is significant because one of my longest serving friends, Peter, he's a stockbroker. And I thought I'd phone him for support. I told him what I was doing. He said, "You're mad, you're crazy, go home." Thanks, Peter. I said, "Look, Peter, can you do me a favor? I don't know anything about this visit by Neil Armstrong. Can you go onto the internet and can you have a look and see if you can see anything?" "Yeah, okay, I will, Rick." 5 minutes went by, phone goes, it's Peter. "Hi, Peter." He said, "Rick, there's nothing on BBC, there's nothing on CNN. I mean, why would there be? We've got an American flying into an American airbase in the UK. It wouldn't be on the news, right?" It's my naivety. I was about to hang up, and Peter said, "Yeah, but there's something you need to know." There was a pause. He doesn't do pauses, he's a stockbroker. I do pauses, because I'm a salesman, right? Motorway Junction came and went, "What, Peter?" "Rick, there's something you need to know," because Peter knows me well. What he was looking at was this. It's a poster. Legends of Aerospace. So this is Neil up here. Yeah, this is Gene Cernan, Apollo 17, last man to walk on the moon. This is Jim Lovell, Apollo 8, Apollo 13. David Hartman, who's old enough to remember the American, I lived in America for a while, so I remember David Hartman. Anybody remember him? He was a big TV guy. Basically, they were visiting. They'd been in the Far East. They were flying in for one night. They were going to give a motivational talk and fly back next. And Peter said to me, "There's something you need to know. The name of the tour that they're on is The Impossible is Possible." So this is what I think happened. I think it flicked a switch here. Okay, we've all got one. It's called the hypothermic nerve. Just get your index fingers and just do all that for me. Just do that on the side of your heads, will you? No, I'm only joking. Inside your head, I think there's a switch somewhere, okay? And it's the switch that takes you from, I don't think I can, to I am going to do this. I really, really give you my word. But I didn't know it at the time. Driving up, this is what I thought. And as a salesman, I vision all my meetings I go on. Okay? So if I'm going to come and sell to you, yeah, I vision that I'm going to meet you, we're going to get on really well, yeah, and you're going to buy from me. Right? Okay. So what I did in this case, I imagined driving to the airbase, getting there, security. What do you want? No, go away. Please can I come in? Nope. What do you want? Go away. And the third time, I imagined driving away, chain link fence, getting out the car, chain link fence, looking at all the buildings. Ricky's over there somewhere. He's in one of those buildings. You're on the same piece of ground as Neil Armstrong. Go. And I settled for that up until that moment. But when the switch went and I found out the name of the tour, this is what happened. I give you my word. It was cold, it was dark, 3 hours, 5 minutes. I couldn't speed because I had points on my license, 197 miles. Anyone who's been there, traffic light control, turned off. Massive, massive airbase, not intimidating at all. Yeah, all the lights were on. There were three, what's my words? Yeah, where you drive up, and it was non-pass holder, pass holder, pass holder. I drove up the non-pass holder one. There was a pillbox and a barrier. Window down, I hadn't rehearsed anything. Young lady, submachine gun, American uniform. Good evening. My name is Richard, and I'm here to meet Neil Armstrong. Sir, do you have a pass? You know, I don't. I've just driven 197 miles, and I'm here to meet Neil Armstrong. Sir, do you know someone on this base who can sign you in and escort you at all times? You know, I don't. I told my wife and 4 children 3 hours, 5 minutes ago that I was going to meet Neil Armstrong, and here I am. Suddenly, another person came out, a Brit, had blue uniform on, flat cap, no gun. What seems to be the problem, sir? No problem, officer, just explaining to your colleague. My name is Richard, and I'm here to meet Neil Armstrong. You got a pass? instinctively, I think what happens is when you get in a high emotional state, and those of you who play tennis really well or whatever, when you're in that state of flow, yeah, your instincts are just amazing. They're razor sharp, okay? I recognised those two people could not help me, and I wasn't about to influence them. I turned, and in the car park, there was a red brick single-storey building with a light on. Remember, it was 8 o'clock at night, winter, dark. And I said, excuse me, officer, what happens in that building? And he said, oh, that's the nighttime security officer. Reverse, thank you. But it'll be the same story. Thank you, officer. Parked. Out the car, put my jacket on, had my best pinstripe suit on. Check myself out. Yeah, okay. In I go. You know, when you go to British Aerospace, Rolls-Royce, a large organisation, you go into their reception room and there's 3 desks. And you can imagine 8 o'clock in the morning, loads and loads of people arriving, signing in, what have you. It's 8 o'clock at night. There's no one in there. It's just one young American airman called Garrett. Got his name. Garrett, how do you do? My name is Richard, and I'm here to meet Neil Armstrong. You got a pass? Another security guard came in. Again, a Brit, different one this time, Malcolm, came in, and I started to talk with both of them. Guys, I'm here because there's 3 men, astronauts, 2 have walked on the moon, and I'd very much like to meet them. Yeah? In those days, I used to carry photos. How sad. I had a photo of my young son and Jim Lovell, and I had a photo of my eldest son and Gene Cernan, both of whom were there in a building somewhere. And I showed them the photos, and I said, look, I've met Gene Cernan, I've met Jim Lovell, but I haven't met Neil Armstrong. Gentlemen, can you see the problem? What are we going to do about it? Garrett immediately scratched his head, picks up the phone. Hello? Is that public relations? Yeah. I got a Brit over here. He's mad keen to see the astronauts on the base. He didn't know the astronauts were there. Mind blowing. Yeah. Gee. Okay. Gee, sorry, Richard. They're all busy. They're all over with the astronauts. I said, okay. I said, look, what time do you get off duty, Garrett? 6 a.m. Malcolm, 6 a.m. Okay. Well, look, I've got all the time in the world. What can we do? Malcolm then came round the other side of the desk for some reason. And again, I don't think I consciously knew at the time, but on reflection, I thought he's the route to the loop because this guy's stationary. This guy's probably bored. He's driving around the perimeter. He's coming to see his mate. And I got lucky. So there I am talking to Malcolm. Only a very, very brief conversation, but it was something like this. Malcolm, can I ask you a personal question? Yeah, sure. How old are you? I'm 30. Okay, so I get it. They didn't land on the moon in your lifetime, so it's hard for you to relate to it. But can I give you a concept? Yeah, sure. I can't tell you if in 2,000 years' time, 10,000 years' time, they're going to be teaching children in schools about Julius Caesar and the Roman Empire. Okay. I can't tell you whether in 10,000 years' time they're going to be teaching children in schools about Hitler and the Third Reich. Okay. But what I can tell you, Malcolm, is, yeah, in 10,000 years' time, they will be teaching children. There's a window, and you could see all the buildings, the lights. And I say they will be teaching children in schools about one of the men over there in one of those buildings. The first human being to walk upon another heavenly body. Richard, I could get into trouble if I take you over there. Malcolm, you won't get into trouble. I remember opening my jacket and, kick me. You can see who I am. You have the photos. You can see the passion. He had a walkie-talkie radio. He said, Richard, if there's a problem with the fence and it comes on the radio, I'll have to bring you back here. I said, Malcolm, if there's a problem on the fence, I'll come and sort it out with you. Okay, Richard. So inside, but I'm cool. Are we going in your car? My car. So I ran outside to get my camera. As I ran outside, my mobile, it was Andy. Hi, Andy. Hi, Richard. I could hear he was in a car. I thought, hold on, he was on the base. I've had to leave early because my friend's getting up early and I've left the room and, I was in the room with Neil. And, okay, where are you? I'll call you later. Get my camera, go back in. We get into Malcolm's truck. You know how when the Americans go anywhere, they take everything with them. There's a great big pickup truck, white, left-hand drive. Up to the barrier, and out of the pillbox comes a lady with a submachine gun, and she looks and sees me. And this is like 8 minutes, 10 minutes after I'd spoken to her, and written all over her face is, who the, what the? You could just see it. And Malcolm's there, and he's kind of like almost, what, it's me, open the gate. And she goes, in disgust, barrier up. Down the end at the airfield. So I remember the book, How to Win Friends and Influence People. So Malcolm, tell me all about yourself. I don't know what he said. I've got no idea. I was just thinking I'm about to walk into a building, I think, with Neil Armstrong. So we get to the social club for the airbase. If anybody's been to Nailsea and Backwell Rugby Club, a very similar building. Yeah, red brick, 2 stories. Yeah, social club. We park in the yellow hatched area. The car park was rammed, where you shouldn't park. Got out. There I am walking in with my security guard. 2 guys with submachine guns. Malcolm says, the suit's with me. Walk in. And I'm thinking, as I'm walking in, if anyone's looking out of the window, they're going to see me. They're going to think I'm a member of Parliament. So they can have got my security guard. So we walk in. Stairs, up the stairs, corridor, double doors, open. You can see feel the heat coming out. Do you know when you go to a concert and you can feel the energy? It's probably the energy within you. I was feeling the energy. Walk in the room, stand to one side, luckily the right-hand side. And this is what I see. This is my camera. So the gentleman in the blue is the first man to walk upon the surface of the moon, Mr. Neil Armstrong. That's Gene Cernan, Apollo 17. That's Jim Lovell. And I'm standing there. First thing I do is I call Sarah, my daughter. I called her several times on the way up in the car. And I think the last time she said, Dad, you're going to get shot. So I called her and I heard her say, hello, Dad. And I held the phone and there was a PA with American voices. And I heard her say, ah. And I said, yeah, I'm in the room. Love you. I called the Ian's one. And then 15 minutes went by, no idea what they said, just standing there. This is Malcolm. Love Malcolm. It's my security guard, Malcolm. Big smile on his face. So, there I was. Everybody starts clapping. And I turn to Malcolm, I say, they're probably going to leave by that door at the back there, because if they come this way, they're going to get mobbed. And the guy in a polo shirt here said, sir, can you stand back? They will be exiting this way. I said, pardon? Sir, can you stand? I was not aware of my surroundings at all. I was fixated on that. I was on a raised walkway that went round, and there was a barrier, and everybody else in the room was sort of a foot lower, yeah? And they came down. Gene came down, Gene Cernan. I met him a couple of times before. Not that he would remember me. I said, Malcolm, look, just take any photos, yeah? And then Neil came down, and everybody wanted to touch him, including me. He was shaking his hands over the barrier. And when he got to here, I sort of went like that. I said, Mr. Armstrong, sir, may I shake your hand? This is post-shake. This is Neil. I'm just shaking his hand. Neil disappeared into the crowd. And so remember, midnight the night before, and this is about 8:15 the next day, so less than 24 hours, which is great. I went back to Garrett. Garrett, shake the hand of the man. Yeah, the one regret I have is that I didn't go and immediately buy them a barrel of beer each. And I couldn't do it the next day, because if I'd sensed something there, they could have got into trouble and what have you. So, but anyway, it took my car 3 hours, 5 minutes to get back home. Took me 2 minutes. No music, no nothing. I think I called Caroline. But I met Neil Armstrong, shake his hand. That was March. So the year goes by, and I think, hold on. I drove 197 miles, fleeting handshake. No, I want to drive 7 miles. I want to spend the day with him. So how do you do that? Email? No. Phone call? No, I don't have his phone number. I wonder if I can get his address. I went on the internet. went on the Anorak site and just asked, does anybody know Neil Armstrong's address in Lebanon, Ohio? And some guy came back, P.O. Box, blah, 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 Lebanon, Ohio. So, okay. So I then spent about a month writing a letter. So I posted my letter on the 2nd of November, 2010. Dear Mr. Armstrong, on the understanding that first and foremost you're an engineer, you may well be interested in this British engineering adventure. And I described Bloodhound, which was being built in Bristol. And I got so lucky, because Bloodhound was being built in this building. And next door, there was this thing that you may be familiar with called the SS Great Britain. And I didn't know that Neil Alden Armstrong's hero was a man called Isambard Kingdom Brunel. Because in my letter, about the 3rd page, I said, oh, by the way, and in my letter was that your security is very important, and all of that. I've read James Hanson's biography, First Man, twice. I think what I did as a salesman, I climbed in the head of an 80-year-old man who wasn't a recluse. He got out a lot. He just didn't shout about it. A very private man. And on the 3rd page, I said, oh, by the way, the SS Great Britain is in the building next door. If you're interested, I can organise. Yeah. So I posted the letter on the 2nd of November, 2010. 26 days later, count them, 26 days later. That's me. That's my wonderful son, Charles. And the man in the middle is Neil Alden Armstrong. And for those of you who know, that's the rudder in the museum at the SS Great Britain. Essentially, I was standing in the car park at 11 o'clock, and Neil drives in with his wife, his friend, Jim, who drove him, and Jim's wife, Chris. We spent 3.5 hours on the SS Great Britain and 2.5 hours at Bloodhound. This is Bloodhound. This is the building next door. It's Andy Green, the driver. Here's Neil and me. He's looking worried there. I don't know what I was saying to him. He's looking quite worried there. Lots of stories around this, and I'll tell you one more, and then I'll stop. As we were walking around the ship, we're in a small group. So it was November, it was a Sunday, it was cold, there weren't many people there. I was paranoid that people would recognize it, and of course they didn't. Yeah. We were walking around with Simon, the chief engineer, and very low key. And you know, when you walk in a group, you sort of interchange with people. And there's one moment when I was standing next to Neil, and there was a line drawing of the Great Eastern, which is another ship. And he said, not in a braggadocious way, he said, you know, Richard, the SS Great Eastern is 676 feet long, and gave me the tonnage. And I thought, well, where's he reading it? Wait a minute, he's not reading it. He referred to Isambard as Isambard. Okay. The SS Great Britain are clients of ours. Everybody refers to Brunel as Brunel. But if you're his friend, if he's your mate, he's Isambard. Isambard and Neil were friends. He literally referred to him, Isambard this, Isambard that. So imagine, we walk into the dining car. It isn't there now, but this is 2010. When you walk in, over to one side, there was a mannequin of Brunel. And Brunel's sitting like this. And I walked in, and I've now understood the relationship between Isambard and Neil. And I walk in, my son Charles is over there, Neil walks in. And Neil walks in, he's a man of very few words, and I saw him look at Isambard, and his eyes just lit up. Yeah? And I said to Neil, perhaps you'd like to sit next to Isambard, and Charles, my son, camera Charles, take a photo, and we can forward it on to you. Didn't look at me, didn't say anything, he just walked past in a sweeping arc. He struck the pose, sat down, and my son went, click. When that was November, I left it a couple of months, and I figured he'd get a lot of Christmas post. So January, I found a picture frame, and this is the exact copy, and I bubble wrapped it, and I posted it to him. And he sent me a wonderful email a couple of months later when he'd come back from Florida saying, thank you very much for the photo. After he passed away in 2012, I kept in touch with Carol, his wife, and I asked her, was that photo significant? And she said, Richard, it took pride of place on his home office study bookshelf. Neil Armstrong had been photographed with the Queen and everybody, but the photo that he valued was that. So I felt very, very proud that I'd been able to introduce Neil and Isambard. So I've got a question for you. What are you going to do to make the impossible possible? Thank you for listening.